What's up, everyone? Here's my 1998 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am WS6. I've had the car almost 3 months now. It is a true WS6. The VIN number does match the one on the door sticker, and the door sticker does have all of the codes for the Trans Am and the WS6. So it is legit. One thing that was weird about this car when I got it, if you follow my Instagram, the WS6 badge was initially over here, which is incorrect. According to the Carfax, this car was involved in a minor rear-end collision in 2002, I believe it was. So my guess is that while they were putting everything back together, they body shop probably lazily put the badge on the wrong side. I've since corrected it and put it in the right spot. So that's corrected. Now, there were a couple of things. This is slightly cracked, and there's a crack in the tail light, and I'm going to replace those anyway. And another thing, which is really odd, apparently this came in early 1998 WS6s, which was an option, is the single outlet exhaust. If you come over here, there's just a big gaping hole. Looks a little ricey to me. It's actually kind of really quiet too. I don't know if that was some kind of decision that was made in order to make the car more quiet or emission friendly or something. I don't know. I personally hate it. I think it looks a little lopsided. And I'm probably going to... I'm deciding on whether or not I'm going to go with a Borla or an SLP loudmouth, because I like the way those sound. I don't have any plans to track this car. There's the Ram Air. This is functional. Some of the paint needs a little bit of work, but for a 25-year-old paint job, it's actually not bad at all. I'm the third owner. I checked all the records. A lot of the records still came with the car, so I know who bought it initially. The car went from Flushing, Michigan to Shreveport, Louisiana. Now, my third week with the car, I was driving, and I had the rear tire blow out suddenly. So I had to get that fixed, but she's back up and running. As for the interior, this car was very well kept. Pop the trunk. Pretty clean. Still got the T-tops. Got a couple things in there. A couple of LED bulbs. I was doing a little work on this thing, but everything's clean. It's got the monsoon. Struts for the hatch are still in good shape. As for the interior, the biggest complaint on this car, forget my voice, I'm getting over the flu here, so if I sound a little odd, that's why. Or maybe I just sound like this and I'm just, whatever. So, the biggest complaint on these, on the F-bodies in general, is the interior. As you see, I've got a tiny little crack here. Usually this top piece up here looks like a jigsaw puzzle, because the sun beats down on it, it gets brittle, and it ends up cracking. It's such a big piece that anytime they get too much heat, too much sunlight, UV damages it, and it starts to crack and fall apart. Next thing you know, you got just a broken, like I said, jigsaw puzzle of plastic here. This looks like it could start to go. Now, eventually I'll probably just replace this whole thing anyway, but the fact that it's still in decent shape. I think the second owner kept it in the garage. A little bit of an older gentleman that owned it. The story I was given when I went to pick it up is that they traded it in towards a Maserati. So, other than that, everything else is in good working order. These two LEDs over here don't work, or not LEDs, the bulbs. Everything lights up normally. Can't really see it now, but doesn't have the infamous door cracks over here. Speakers are all in good shape. I am going to replace this head unit at some point. Everything does work. Everything's clear. You see all the numbers and letters. I appreciate it, but I'm going to replace it with a double DIN with a touchscreen and wireless Android Auto. So once that happens, I'll change all that. I'm going to swap out all the speakers too. It's been 25 years, like I said. They're due for an upgrade. Swapped out the steering wheel underneath. This is in good shape. I just put this here because it's got a little bit better grip. And the headliner is pretty good shape as well. The sun visors do sag a little bit. The passenger side a little bit more than the driver's side. I haven't decided whether or not I'm just going to take those out altogether or leave them in. I am just over 6 feet tall, so the sun really doesn't bother me as much in this, and it's got that little tint strip over here. So it doesn't bother me as much. I might just take it out. I wear sunglasses all the time anyway. T-tops are already tinted from the factory, so there's really no need to mess with those there. And what else? I have the original cigarette lighter. As you can see, I swapped the put this eject button on. I was going to get one that says turbo boost on it, but I just went with that one because it was cheap and it's a little higher quality. The reason I took it out is because one thing I will say, this inner console over here looked like caca when I opened it. It looked like a crayon that exploded. I still have the original cigarette lighter. I don't know if this was used or if it's just age, but this thing when you're driving will rattle around in there. And the stopper that I put in there has a couple of rubber gaskets to hold it in place, and it's a little better quality. It's made of I think aluminum or something, but it doesn't rattle around in there. It's pretty solid. Other than that, it's been very well kept. T-tops still work. The latches open up nice and easily. Now, because the car, like I said, is 25 years old, there was a little bit of a there was a steady leak on that side. I went through and used what did I use? I think I used Meguiar's trim and rubber restorer on it, which ended up actually helping with some of the leaking because I've washed it a few times since, and it's not anywhere near as bad. You still get a little bit of a drip on the driver's side. I don't think you're ever going to completely get it out, but it did minimize it a lot more once I got the rubber restored. The floor mats I got with my 97 Firebird. They don't fully match. I had a black interior in that one. There's so many different shades of gray and black in these things that it's hard to tell what's what. And seats are all in good shape. Leather interior. This seat does not go forward or back. I don't know why. And I remember that it's got the lever up here, but it won't actually move forward or back. So I need to take the seats out and see what's going on with that. It does have the power seats, so it could be overly bolstered, but I use all kinds of products on it in order to keep it clean. UV protectant on the dashboard, so try to get as much out of that as we can. So my reasons for loving this car are very simple. It all started with a TV show from the 80s. When I was born in 1982, there was a TV show called Knight Rider. Maybe you've heard of it. And the show is about a character played by David Hasselhoff who rides around in a talking Trans Am, a 1982 Trans Am. And he's like a private investigator. He works for a private agency and he goes around solving crimes with the talking car. And that talking car, if you're my age, was probably a big part of your childhood, because everybody I know feels the exact same way about that show. And the name of the show obviously was Knight Rider. And everybody wanted KITT. So fast forward, now I am 41 years old. I'm older, fatter, and I don't love the car any less than I did as a kid. That car literally started a whole obsession when I was 2 years old, because keep in mind, the show started in 82. I was born in 82. And by the time I was 2 years old, I had already started watching it. That was one of my first loves in life, was Knight Rider. So KITT was the name of the car, which stood for Knight Industries 2000. And that literally just, something clicked inside of me, and I said, that's going to be my car. So when I was 2, I kept telling my parents that I wanted Trans Am or Firebird, either one. So according to legend, for my second birthday, I got really sick. And again, I just got over the flu like yesterday. Actually today's the first day that I've actually felt better from being sick the last couple of days. But I got so sick and I had a fever, and they canceled my second birthday party. And out of pity, my parents gave me what I had asked them for the entire year. According to my mom, I bugged them literally every single day that year because I wanted the Kenner Knight Rider, the KITT car that came with the Michael Knight action figure. It lit up and it talked and everything like that. Coolest toy I had ever seen in my entire life. So out of pity, they gave me that, and according to them, I was instantly cured, and it was like I was never sick. So one man did make a difference that day, and yeah, that was the story. So miracles do happen. So like I said, I'm older now. I just turned 41 this month, and like I said, I don't love the car any less than I did as a kid. It's weird how things from your childhood or experiences can affect how you feel about certain things, and especially cars, because I know, guys in particular, I know there are women too, but we tend to love cars. And I think Joe Rogan said it best when he said that they're engineered, functioning art, because even the crappy ones, somebody had to design them and come up with them and the design. And the Firebird went uninterrupted for 35 years before Pontiac decided to shut it down. And there's a whole list of reasons that you can look at and wonder why GM made decisions that they did. When Knight Rider was on in the first season of the show, they openly referred to KITT as a Trans Am. Supposedly, people were going into Pontiac dealerships, according to legend. People were going into Pontiac dealerships and asking for Trans Ams that looked just like KITT, because KITT had a custom nose on the front, which looked different than a stock Trans Am. And they were getting upset because they wanted the little scanner light on the front, and they weren't getting it. So GM, in their infinite wisdom, being the fucking idiots that they are, supposedly went to Universal and asked them to stop referring to KITT as a Trans Am. Stop referring to the free commercial that you have running for 4 years, selling your sports car. So again, baffles my mind. So for the rest of the show, for the remaining 3 seasons that it was on, they referred to him as a T-top, not a Trans Am anymore. So that's bizarre. And then on top of that, this car, according to the bill of sale that I got, was $27,500 out the door. I know that a little bit later, and this is a 98, so it ran for a few more years after this. This is the first year of the facelift. These cars were around $32,000, I think, when they ended. So $30,000 back then was a lot of money. My daily driver is a 2019 Chevy Colorado, and that was $32,000 now, which is still a lot of money. But $30,000 back then was still a lot of money. It was supposed to be an affordable sports car. If you couldn't afford a Corvette, you got this, or a Camaro. because it was on the same platform as the Camaro, the F-body. And I like the Camaro, but if you ask me, a Firebird is a better looking version of a Camaro, but not quite a Corvette. It was kind of an in-between car. So that being what it was, I've already pointed out some of the cheapness. Again, if you follow my Instagram, this freaking car has an Instagram now. I became one of those people. The Instagram is Lolita Red WS6. And there are a lot of cheap things. So GM went all out by putting an LS1 in this car. Previously, they had the LT1. Both Corvette engines, both very powerful at the time. Still great engines. The LS1 is an all-aluminum. I think this was the second or third year that it had been in service for the Corvette. And they threw it in this car. So they focused on performance. They wanted to give you the most performance you could possibly get, but they skimped on stuff like interior, sealant on the freaking taillights, which leak like a mofo, which I'm planning on getting those replaced. I saw that IROC Motorsports has, he's got these new improved designs and housings that I'm probably just going to end up replacing those and going with what, and his design. If I'm going to put the money into it, I might as well just get that, because the OEM housings look incredible. They look great with the honeycomb design, but they're shitty because they don't keep the water out, and you'll end up constantly having to change bulbs. And I want to upgrade to LEDs. So in order to do that, we have to find a way to keep the water out. The best way to go is to go with the upgraded housings from IROC, is what I've seen. IROC Motorsports. So free plug for that guy. It seems like he's got a better product. On top of that, my passenger side is cracked, and those things are getting expensive as hell. Again, really expensive for cheap quality material. Most of the interior, while I like it, and this one's been well kept, the interior is made of cheap hard plastic. So they cut corners everywhere that they could possibly go while giving you the performance, which is pretty much what GM was known for at the time, and they still kind of have that. There's a lot of hard plastic in my Chevy Colorado. I had a Chevy Cruze, and if you follow my Instagram, you know how that went. And I swore I'd never buy another Chevy, but I ended up, the Colorado I'm happy with. I had a Chevy Cruze. If you want to go back and watch some of my videos on that and drive time, biggest piece of shit I've ever owned. As far as F-bodies, I own the 97 that I daily drove for 10 years. That thing was my pride and joy for the longest time. It was a V6. As far as the issues that I had with that during my daily driving, V8 Trans Ams, and I think, no, the Formula came with the basic one. For the Formula and the V6, they don't have an actual spoiler that comes up. Like, if you can see in the back, I don't know if you can see it from here. I don't know if you can see it. There's an actual gap between my spoiler and the body, so water can run off. I live in South Florida, where it rains whenever the hell it's going to rain, whenever it wants to, and you have no idea when it's going to stop. It can come anytime. So a lot of rain. With the V6 and the Formula spoiler, it's more of just a raised lid, but it's got a depression in the middle of it, so it collects water. So if you come out after a torrential downpour, you just have a puddle of standing water on the trunk of your car. Eventually, what could happen, because it happened to me one time, is that the seals on your rear hatch window could end up going, and you could end up having a leak, and then you could come out one night after work and find almost 10 inches of rain in your T-top wells. That could lead to a little bit of stress and anger, I'm not gonna lie. So there were issues I had, but I daily drove it for 10 years. I was happy with it. But it was more just, passion and love, because the last couple of years, when I couldn't afford to keep up with it and things were starting to break and fall apart, and again, the cheap interior was falling apart, it became a little bit of a hassle. I'm not daily driving this one, though. This is my sidecar, so I can pretty much just leave it parked if I need to and just work on it as I need to. Like I said, not planning on taking this to the track. I'm not turning this into a drag car. This isn't a project car. I'm going with bolt-ons to add a little more horsepower, but other than that, I'm not supercharging or putting nitrous or any of that other crap on there. This is just a car for me to just screw around with whatever I want for fun. I don't have to have any passengers. I can do this all on my own and use the truck that I have for daily driving, all that other stuff. There are some things that you can do. The door cracks, I don't know what caused that. I'm a firm believer in babying your stuff. I grew up in a time when our happiness as kids really didn't matter as much. If something broke growing up, and I had to share a room with my brother, so we had to share everything. When we got something that was hours and hours alone that we didn't have to share, if it broke, we weren't getting it replaced. We'd have to buy it ourselves, and we had no jobs at the time. So I grew up babying all my stuff. I'm a little OCD about all my things. I don't slam the doors. Even in Knight Rider, I would see Hasselhoff touch the windows when he's closing it. I touch the body of the car to close the door, to shut the doors. I hate smudges and fingerprints all over windows. That blows my mind. But people seem to like slamming doors. You don't need to slam the door. You can use enough force to make sure the door shuts without overly slamming it. I think if you slam it, your doors are going to crack. So if you bang on your dashboard when you're talking or you're trying to make a point and you like to, stress it by hitting things, chances are you're going to break your dashboard with these cheap GM cars. So maybe you don't do that. Maybe your stuff won't crack. It could crack anyway. You never know. But, there are little things you could do to make things last a little bit longer. I'm all about getting your money's worth. So try those. Other than that, like I said, this car is 25 years old. It's weird to watch. It's weird for me to think now that I grew up watching Knight Rider, and I grew up watching Star Trek: The Original Series, which was in the 60s. And Knight Rider now is older than Star Trek was when I was a kid. That was 1966. So you don't realize the time goes by and you're getting old. Knight Rider is now 40 years old. There are people who've, there's a couple of generations of lifetimes that are occurring in that time frame. 2000 for me doesn't seem like it was that far away, but here we are in 2023. Where it's we're a couple of days away from New Year's, and time flies. But like I said, this is a car that's been well kept. I did the research. I was lucky to get this thing when I did. I'd already lost out on a couple on Facebook Marketplace that I've been trying to get, and people are scooping them up. The market for these things has shot up, and I think it's because people who are my age are now in positions where they can actually try to get these cars, and they're the ones keeping it alive, which is why third generation, I'm on a ruddy road here, third generation F-bodies are seeing a climb now, because people who grew up on Knight Rider or grew up, in the 80s, seeing these things were everywhere back in the day. And I'll go ahead and say it, my brother's a Mustang guy, and all my friends like to troll and talk shit, but this car could outperform a Mustang back in the day. The only problem was that the Mustang had already had a big enough following that it was just selling more. The reason this got discontinued was because it wasn't selling as much as Mustangs, and that's pretty much it. I don't know what Dodge was making at the time. It was mainly just these and the Mustang. Ford, it was the Camaro, the Mustang, and the Firebird was pretty much it. And the Mustang obviously had a bigger following. People love those. They're still everywhere. But in terms of horsepower and performance, this thing blew it away. The only thing it didn't blow it away is in sales, which, people are going to point to sales and be like, well, which one's still around? Blah, 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 blah. That's like saying, a good movie comes out, doesn't make any money. Doesn't mean that the movie wasn't good. Just means that enough people didn't pay to watch it, and more people pirated it, probably. Like Black Adam is a movie that more people hate the movie than actually watched it. So numbers aren't always the tell-all be-all when it comes to sales. But in terms of performance, this was, this had more bang for the buck than Mustang did. And the downside of living in South Florida is that you mainly just get fast cars so you can catch up to slow drivers and spend a lot of time on red lights anyway. So this is, I don't plan on ever selling this car. I'm going to enjoy it every single chance I get. I look for excuses to drive it. It's a weekend car, but I try to find any excuse I can to drive it. I drive it to work at least twice a week. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you don't follow me on, I have a couple of, obviously I have Fire Falcon 97, which is actually named after my 97 Firebird. That's how I came up with that name. That's my art Instagram. That's the main one I use for a lot of things. This car, I created the one, obviously, Lolita Red WS6, which I did some research on the name Lolita. I'm not going to let some pedophile asshole artist in some fictional story ruin the name Lolita, because, a whole bunch of people are stupid, and the book was written in the 50s. Who cares? But yeah, so yeah, Lolita Red WS6. If you want to follow on Instagram, I just post a bunch of pictures. How many pictures can you post of a car? Well, I'm going to find out. So that's going to do it for this video. I'll catch you guys next time.